welcome to this episode of the Loveliest Podcast. And it's a very exciting episode today because it is not just me, so you don't have to listen to me rambling. I have, in an interview that we recorded a little bit earlier, is myself and Sarah McFall of Yarn Blarney. So I'm really excited to have Sarah on. She's just had patterns published in some of the crochet magazines, and she has a lot of her own independent patterns. So I'm delighted that she's here with me on an interview because she shares some of her tips on how to get into the magazines and kind of her inspiration for designing and how she uses yarns and stuff like that. And it was really, really fun to do. So without further ado, you don't have to listen to me anymore by myself. I'm going to hand you over to my interview with Sarah, and I'll see you just after the show.
Hello Sarah. Welcome to my little chat, not an interview because that would be really strange, with Sarah McFall of Yarn and Blarney. I met Sarah, I think, about 3 years ago now at Unravel Yarn Festival through our love of hand-dyed yarn, particularly hand-dyed yarn from Ireland. Hi Sarah!
Hello!
Thank you for joining me today. I know that this is a bit kind of odd. So I'm here in Nottingham and Sarah is in Wiltshire. Although not originally from Wiltshire in the same way that I'm not originally from Nottingham. So Sarah, tell me a small bit about yourself. Like it was a really bad job interview. No.
Or on blind date, who are you and where do you come from?
Oh, Silla.
It's either that or one of those, anonymous meetings where you go, hi, I'm Sarah and I'm addicted to you. But actually that's kind of true. Yeah, my name is Sarah. I kind of joke that I am the woman behind the curtain here at Yarn and Blarney. It is just me, although I do refer to my mum as the logistics manager because she does post office runs for me. So
what would I couldn't run my business without my mom. Either. Mummies are the best. So I was thinking also, why Yarn and Blarney?
Well, as my dad says, it sounds better than yarn and blathers. Which is another it's certainly a very Northern Irish expression.
Leathers. That's really, that's very.
I was like, yeah, thanks for that, Dad.
That's hilarious. And have you been to the Blarney Stone,
Yeah, well, a couple of years ago, we went to Kerry for my birthday because I hadn't actually been to anywhere in Southern Ireland as an adult.
Yeah.
And so we went for a birthday trip, and because we were so close to Blarney, we thought, well, we have to go. There was no way I was walking up to the very top of that tower because the queue was all the way down the steps. There was a couple of American tour buses in, and so I was just like, no.
It's definitely one of Cork's weirdest things to do as well.
Yeah, it's like, come and see our wonderful castle and our beautiful gardens, walk up a tower and kiss an ancient stone. And nobody is wiped at any point.
Yeah, no, it's not. I've only done it because Simon was over with his family and we went and we said, look, we'll do it. But and it's less dangerous and less safe all at the same time than you think it's going to be.
Yeah, because you don't realise you have to hang upside down and sort of pucker up. I could see people doing it from, I found a nice bench. I zoomed in with my camera. That actually was good enough rather than trying to do all this.
Because you have to lean out backwards, upside down, to kiss the stone on the. But that is Irish tourism, because otherwise you're going to see. Because even when I was over for wool, and Mom was like, "Do you want to go and see the tombs?" And I was like, "There's massive monolithic tombs," and I was like, Mom, I won't this time. But they're really worth seeing. But I'm as an Irish person, you know what? They're also dotted around everywhere in Ireland. There's a standing stone or there's a doll grave everywhere. So you're I've seen plenty. But people who haven't seen plenty should definitely visit both the Blarney Stone and Oh, see,
And the castle is lovely and the gardens are fantastic. I mean, we went in October and it was still lovely to walk around. And if you have the strength and energy to do it, then
yeah,
that's
it's
great.
definitely a beautiful place. So do you feel like even visiting Blarney, did it give you more chat?
Well, see, I did say that there was no point in me kissing the Blarney Stone because do I really need a bigger gift of the gab?
No. I would say, like, no.
No. See, and that's from a friend.
Nobody does. Nobody don't do it. To kiss the stone, like. And just in case, just for a little break for anyone who is wondering what we are talking about, if you look up the Blarney Stone, Cork, then you'll see the Castle Gardens. It's a stone that you kiss, and there's a story behind the stone. And just go and see it if you don't know. But that's where you got your name, which is definitely more catchy than Yarn and Blethers.
Blethers, yes. And then, see, what I wanted was, I picked yarn because I thought if I get into knitting or anything else, you know, I'm not stuck with crochet, although crochet is predominantly my most favorite thing. But you know, then I covered, you know, if there's Tunisian crochet, and it just covers more.
Yeah.
And I did that thing of you know, the famous advert where it does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, if people turn up to see Yarn and Blarney, you will get yarn and you will get Blarney. So it seemed kind of fitting. And yes, better than Blethers.
Yeah, I have to say, although I am now going to start thinking of you as Yarn and Blethers. No, I promise I won't. So tell me, so crochet is your main thing, obviously.
Yes, crochet is the main thing. I have been crocheting on and off for over 20 years. And I'm now at the point where it's more on and off because for the last few or several years I've been crocheting every day.
Yes.
So
I know.
There's been a lot.
Do you feel weird if you don't crochet?
A bit, yes. It depends. If I'm, you know, like when you're really ill and you're just like, no, can't be doing with anything. And it gets to the end of the day and you're like, I haven't picked up my yarn. I haven't even done a single stitch. It's like 10 minutes past midnight. I missed a whole day.
You like panic just so that you get it in and
just do 2 and pretend it's still the clock didn't go. That's what I really like about crochet, is it's so easy to pick up and put down.
Yeah, apparently. I'm just so good at putting it down.
That's where you're going wrong.
I know.
Too much of that.
When did you start designing? Because you have some amazing crochet designs.
That was, well, I released my first pattern in January, I want to say 2017. Is that right? I think that's right. Yeah, it was 2 years. 2 years this year. I had designed it the year before, but then working out how to get it tested and launched. I was hoping to do that in the autumn time, but people get really busy around about Christmas. Doesn't necessarily, you know, fit timetables for getting patterns tested and things like that. So
no, it's definitely not a time to go looking for tests anyone's at that point.
No, but then that's another thing that you learn.
Yes, actually. And where did you go when you were learning how to like launch a pattern and stuff? Where did you find really useful?
Joeli, what was her surname? Kelly,
yeah.
I think so. Because I think it was in her Facebook group that we met. Or that I saw you in your stripy jumper and thought, yeah, that person needs to be my friend.
Joeli Creates, of Joeli Kelly.
Yes,
of
Joeli Creates.
Yes. That's where I learned how to put patterns together as well, was from Joeli.
From the designer bootcamp.
Yes.
Yes, that's it.
Is that where we met then?
We definitely met in her group.
Yeah, because I remember I went to her, before I opened the shop, I went to Designer Bootcamp in Manchester herself, and Kate Heppel from Now we're hosting it. It was super. Actually, I'll just give people, if you're looking for Joeli, if you search for, I think she's Joeli Creates at the moment, you can find her on Facebook or on her own website. She not only teaches you how to do your designs and kind of write them up, but she also does tech editing classes as well for anyone interested in that. And you can find her Tech Editor Hub on Facebook as well. So yeah, Joeli's, I think it's funny because I was recommending her tech editing course to somebody else this weekend, and it's cool so many people have met through her.
Yeah, that I did her. I saw somebody post that they were doing her course sort of online, and I kind of thought, I wonder if I could do that. And I did, and I ended up releasing a pattern, and here we are 2 years later, and I've forgotten what number I'm on, but I know I definitely hit 10. I think I'm working on number 12. And I remember so clearly thinking at one point, how on earth do people do this? How do you just pick up a hook and some yarn and go, do you know what, I'm going to sit and make something and it's going to be my own design? And yet, yeah, and like here I am, and you know, I'm kind of doing that.
And then how? No.
Yeah. It was just from, you know, I went through the boot camp and it's split up into steps, and it's kind of, if you want to do it, you just kind of have to give it a go.
Yes.
And I mean, the thing is, you don't have to tell anyone that you're trying.
Yeah, you can do it. It's something you can do at home in private until you're like,
If you've got your hook or your knitting needles and your yarn, and if you've got an idea in your head, you can, you know, think about what stitches that you want to use and give it a try. You know, and if it doesn't work, you just frog it all out and start again. My designing top tip is, don't start with a garment.
Okay.
That's, yeah. You know, what sort of person would do that to themselves?
I know, like if I think about knitting, the people who I follow now, like designers, I've become aware of, the only person I can think of off the top of my head is like Caitlin Hunter.
Yeah.
Straight in hardcore. But like I started with, my first pattern was just basically this terribly small skinny scarf. Like, because I was like, I like this stitch, I'll just keep going in this stitch. And that's
Start with a scarf, start with a washcloth, nothing that requires increasing or decreasing, and certainly nothing that requires you to work out 2 additional sizes. Guess how I know?
I know, I'm at that point now where I want to do garments, but I need to learn how to grade first, because everything I do is my size. And my size varies a bit.
Yeah.
But I need to learn how to size first, because obviously you want to do as big a range of sizes as you can, but I need to learn how to grade, and that's a lot of maths.
Yes, it is. And when I did my Wimbledon top, that was my first pattern, and it's size slightly larger because I wanted something that would fit me and not be tight. So, but I only have it in 3 sizes. So that's something that at some point I want to go back and go, okay, how can I make this a wider range of sizes so that more people, if they want to, can make it?
Yeah, and I think that's something you learn as well. Because like my initial sock pattern was only 1 size, you know, and and I think people understand that too, that if you're a very new designer, they kind of say, look, you can learn, but do learn.
Yeah.
And it's not like I don't want my pattern to fit everybody, because like the more people it fits, the better.
Yes.
Like the large, plus this is very selfish, as somebody who also sells yarn, I'm actually much happier to see somebody who needs a larger size than a smaller size, because you need more yarn. Like if I go looking for yarn, I follow, she's lovely, Millie from Tribe Yarns. She does beautiful samples and stuff, and I see her knitting these beautiful samples and they're finished. And I'm like, yeah, but you only needed 2 skeins, Millie. I need 4.
Yeah.
You know,
of course that took you no time at all.
I was like, how do you finish them so quickly? And I'm like, because there's less of her to cover. Not to pick her out. I feel really bad now. I've just picked out and point, but I think it's.
Oh, she's gorgeous.
Yes, and she knits more quick. She knits quickly as well, I imagine. But like, unlike me, they take me longer. Not to point any. I don't like to talk about somebody's physical appearance, but she obviously, if you follow her on Instagram, you will see that she needs less yarn than I do, obviously.
Yeah. And she, I've seen some of her knitted things, and they're beautiful
things. She does, yeah. Her stuff is gorgeous.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Some people are more suited to different types of knitting and crochet. And like we've said this before, some people absolutely love making garments. You know, sitting down and doing miles of stocking stitch or something for a jumper is no problem whatsoever. But, you know, then if you said, and now I would like you to do something that's about 1,000 meters of lace weight yarn and involves 150 million beads, and, you know, you go, oh, hell no.
No, and as well, for some people, they this is my life, like this is how I make my living as well, like knitting and designing patterns and stuff. So I spend quite a lot of time knitting. But if you're somebody who's really busy, you can't be coming home and trying to, like, you know, you can't be putting kids to bed and then beading 1,000 beads. It's
unless you really enjoy it.
Yes, of course.
You know, there's some, like, it's like there's some people who just go, do you know, I love sewing in ends. I love sewing things together. I am not that person.
I prefer seamless, but I don't mind a bit of sewing up, but just a bit. But I think that's the good thing about knitting and crochet. There's something for everybody, like even me. I'm not a crocheter, but I crochet the wee toys because I love them. Well, I crochet too, and I have kits for 500, but you know.
You did start a shawl.
I did.
Yes, but then ended up being frogged.
The ends are like that. I'll get there because
that's all right. It partly comes out like that.
Yeah, it does not.
It does have a sort of strange curve at the top.
It might have a curve like that in real life, but it's not supposed to have, like, it's not a ripple shawl. It's not. So, and then obviously you've been designing now for just over 2 years, really. And then this obviously happened this year. If anyone hasn't seen them, Sarah has 2 amazing patterns inside crochet. It's issue 113, I believe, and issue 114. So you were actually in one after the other.
I know.
How does that feel? Because I'm not a magazine quality designer of any kind, but like, how was it?
Oh. I'm like, neither am I.
Nice, you so are. Oh wait, so much so that I believe you are actually one of the cover designers, just in case you'd forgotten yourself.
That was very exciting. It was very, very exciting. And the fact that one of my, because you messaged me to say, I've just got the magazine. You know, because you're not a normal crochet magazine customer.
I only buy crochet magazines when your patterns are in them.
But I had a friend message me and she went, I've just seen Inside Crochet magazine. You're in Dublin, in the biggest supermarket. And I was just like, it just was so hilarious. And she sent me a picture of the magazine rack. And she's like, you know, you're in a magazine and it's in Dublin.
That's
like, you know, the fact that I know that when you publish online, patterns are everywhere. But this was like, so my friend who lives in Australia could get it, and my aunt could go to her shop in Northern Ireland and get it. Like, from a shop. You know, walk into the supermarket.
Yeah.
You know, or news agents or whatever, and it's actually there. Yeah. I still can't quite get my head around it. For the biggest time, I thought they'd made a mistake.
Oh, yeah, whatever. No, it's amazing, and they're two beautiful patterns. And I think you can get digital versions if people miss the print versions.
Yeah, you can back order.
Okay.
If you go through their website, or there's a plane going overhead.
That's okay.
And yeah, you can buy a digital download at any time.
Awesome.
And then at some point in the future.
And for people who don't know, because it's something I think that people are really, really shy about, and you only find out about it when you start kind of a bit like, you know, you kind of take your first steps in designing. How did you get into the magazines? Obviously, you have to have a certain level of talent and skill, but the mechanics before everybody goes, oh my God, that's an amazing design.
Well, okay, this is just my experience.
Yep.
So, a lot of the publications will issue what they call design calls.
Okay.
So they'll ask for submissions at certain times because they work sort of 3 months at a time, and 3 months, no, actually maybe more like 6 months ahead.
Okay.
So I had looked to see if there was like a list, an email list you could join, and I never really heard anything, and I got in touch with Inside Crochet and say, do you still issue design calls? And they were like, yes, are you going to sign up? And I was like, well, I was thinking about it, and they said, please do.
Oh, yeah.
So that was lovely. And so I got in touch and said, oh, if you could add me to your designer list. And Kath Weber, who was the commissioning editor, she emailed me and said, well, that's good timing. I've got a new request coming out tomorrow, so check your email.
That's brilliant.
So then you get an email and they tell you the theme for the issue.
Yeah.
So what they want, tickle. Hay fever is wonderful.
I was going to say I'm a bit the same. I don't know, Tesco generic to the eyeballs at this time of year.
Yes, unfortunately, if I took, I can't take the tablets, otherwise they make me slightly zombie-like, which is.
Oh my God! So you were just suffering.
I actually have a tea that I take from a herbalist, which is very good. So. Sorry, that little aside.
I was like, oh.
This excuses me constantly touching my nose.
Bad. So
yeah, so you get told a theme, and so like for the issue 114, they wanted something kind of romantic and, sort of pretty colours and things that had elements of sort of laciness, which you can see from the, and it's afterwards you can see that because they put that in their write-up before the photos.
I'm looking now. Oh, I have the wrong one open. I believe your shawl has, it has a full spread. I'm going to be careful now not to show the pattern. No, I'm not.
No,
I think I show the design, not the pattern. That is.
So then they also write on that bit what they want, so that
yes.
After saying what the thing was afterwards is fine. Not before. But so then you come up with an idea and you put together. I imagine each company is different, but in essence, you put together a submission which includes a sketch, a swatch, what sort of yarn you're thinking of using, what sort of stitches you use.
Mm-hmm.
And then you send that off to them. Each one has if you're on an email list, they send you their information of what it is they want you to send them and how. But you send in your submission, and then it's a case of whether that idea fits with how they imagine the theme, how they're going to put it throughout the magazine, because they want to have some sort of cohesion to what they're putting out there. And they've got one person's romantic style can be very different to another person's romantic style, and so it just depends on, I suppose, their vision for that edition of the magazine.
And actually, something I noticed when I bought the Inside Crochet is that they're very, like, it's very obvious. Even if you weren't told, you'd have a fairly good idea what they were going for, because it's very, like, the issue 113 that you have that beautiful cowl in. There's, like, they really are these cute, sweet, lovely things, and it's quite, you can see how, I suppose, if you read back issues, you can tell how they like. You can kind of see what the magazine's overall thing is as well.
Yeah, so I think that helps with the rejection.
Yeah,
when things don't get picked because you think they're not saying that it's a bad design or anything. They're not saying they don't like it. It's just that actually maybe it just doesn't fit because they already had, cowl ideas submitted, or they already have, as many ideas as they, can fit together, and actually maybe yours doesn't quite fit. So I've
submitted to Knit Now twice. One was a ridiculous notion that I had. And I don't know what I was thinking. And the other was a pair of socks. And, Kate, who does the feedback, was very nice. She said, look, they just don't fit. Yeah. One of them was that she's like, I don't know how much appeal this has. And I was like, yeah, me neither. And the other was just a pair of socks. And she said, look, we just have more suitable socks this time. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. So it's my sort of rule of thumb is that if I design something that I like, then it doesn't really matter if somebody else takes it up or not. It's a lot more work for me to self-publish because I have to take the photos and do everything myself. But I still have a design I like.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a great way to look at it, actually.
And sometimes, actually, I'll read, if I read the theme, I go, ooh, well, that's given me an idea for this. And maybe I won't end up submitting any ideas to the magazine.
Yeah.
But I still have that idea tucked away. So sometimes it just makes you go, that's set the gears whirring.
I never thought about it like that, actually, because then you also know, like, magazines do a lot of work, I imagine, on what's going to be trendy. And so not trendy, using the word trendy, what's kind of in for a season. And you can kind of say, actually, I don't want to submit for them because it won't work, but it might work.
And that's, I read, I really can't remember who it was, somebody's blog post, and they said that if you're going to submit to, like, a publication or a company, have a look at their style and see if your design style fits with theirs.
Yeah.
Because if it clashes tremendously, then you're unlikely to get picked because, it would stick out like a sore thumb.
It doesn't fit.
Yeah, it doesn't fit. And so I think that's what helped for me with Inside Crochet, is that is kind of my style of doing things, because I bought the magazine anyway.
Yes. So it's your kind of, it's what you like.
Those were my kind of patterns. I was making those patterns that were published in there for years.
Before becoming one of their designers.
But the fit was kind of right.
Yeah.
And I think that helped. I always tell people, if I do anything trendy, it's entirely unintentional. I am unintentionally trendy. It's one of those happy accidents where you go, oh yeah.
Your cowl in issue 113 is beautiful, though, and not only is it a cute cowl, it's also so, like, you could do anything with those pieces as well, because, like, anything where you can do lovely piecework is really, really trendy. God, like, we're just children of the 80s and 90s. You know it. You know it.
But I like things like that because when I came up with that, I thought, okay, it could be a cowl, could be a scarf, could be a shawl. You could make coasters. You could make you could do a homeware of a couple of little coasters, and maybe do one, flat as like placemats.
Yeah, and
Or if you didn't want, if it was too much to be doing it in the round, because that can be tricky with joining, then you could sew them all together, or you could just make a flat piece.
Yeah.
But you could keep going and going and going. I mean, you could make a blanket.
For anyone who's wondering what piece we are talking about as well, I better show it because it is so cute. Be careful now not to show the pattern for this because I know that it is charted. Let me just... we show a picture of your face as well.
Yes, because that's what people need to see.
It's so cute. And there you are, the Dolly mixture cowl, which is so cute. And you can see how the little pieces would make the best blankets. So that is such a cute...
Yeah.
Even I will make that at some point. Actually, and that's one thing I would say about Inside Crochet, that even as someone who does not crochet, this is a gorgeous magazine. There are gorgeous pictures and gorgeous patterns in it. Like, I would give them a go. And I really, like, you know me, I do not crochet.
Yeah.
Plus, you use different types of yarn with crochet, so it's an excuse. Well, obviously you can use the same, but there are other yarns you can use that are better for crochet. Well, I think they're better for crochet. Like cotton, I wouldn't really knit with, but I'd crochet with it in a heartbeat.
You see, it's funny you say that because cotton can be a really funny one. It depends on the cotton.
Yeah.
And it depends on the cotton, it depends on hook size as well, and it depends how, I don't know the technical terms, like how tight the twist.
Oh yeah,
the
twist, the plying.
Or the ply.
How
the ply is, because some of them are quite splitty, and if you're using a smaller size hook, it can drive you around the bend.
Yeah.
So that's not so good.
Yeah, and to be fair, that's probably the same with knitting, only I think you would use a smaller hook than a needle for every yarn. I don't know. No. So amazing that you are in magazines. And a question, something I definitely don't know, and people, how do you decide what yarn you're going to submit in? Is it always the submitted yarn, or do they have preferences, or is that an inside secret?
If they accept the design, they will tell you, okay, what do you think you want to make it in? And then they'll say, okay, we want it in this.
Okay, perfect.
So it's like, for the cowl, I had done my swatching cottons off from King Cowl because I had some.
Yeah.
And it worked out that actually they've got such a massive range of colours that then that was going to give people so many options.
It's a great yarn.
And because it doesn't use a lot of yarn to even make the cowl, you could get so much out of it. So you could make a couple of cowls, or you could make a scarf or a table runner, just with the yarn that you bought for that.
Yeah, because actually cotton soft is a great, like I'm looking up, I would reach up only I'm not sure what I'm wearing is suitable to be seen on the car. I get the yardage for people. Plus it's machine washable. It actually gets nicer as you wash it, even the cotton soft. So that's cool. But you also, was it Mr. B's yarn? Is that?
Yes. And that was really exciting because he's actually reasonably local to me.
Okay.
Which I didn't realise. So we talked about the colours of the yarn for the shawl, and they actually, I think this is correct in that the pink for the border they dyed for the pattern.
Oh really?
And it's now in their range because Claire fell in love with the colour, so that worked well.
That's awesome.
But so I made the shawl and sent it off, and then they had just like a little sort of group gathering for people in the Bristol area, and I went along. And so it's one of those things where you put a sticker with your Instagram name. So I was walking past and he just went, "You're Yarn Blarney." like, yes, I have. So then we were able to talk about it, and they had another meeting at the beginning of June, and I was able to take the shawl along for them to see. So that ended up being really nice.
I've never met Mr. B, but I met Mrs. B.
Oh,
she's really lovely. They were at Yarn this weekend, and it's really interesting because I was asking, because they have, like, I don't, like, now that I'm dyeing, I don't dye pastels or anything like that. It's just not me at all. And I was just saying how beautiful their pastel range is, but she was showing me her range of, I don't know her name. Is it Claire? Claire. Hers are all the lovely soft pastels and the speckles and stuff. And then Mr. B, whose name is, I don't know his name.
Oh, I want to say John.
Okay, well, Mr. John. No, I'm joking. Mr. John. Don't even. He has some lovely darker, like not quite dark colors, but they're more kind of.
Sorry, I know I had it written down. Yeah, Claire and John.
John, perfect. Yay. He has slightly different colors, and I was like, it's so handy to be kind of working as a Mr. and Mrs. couple. They are Mr. and Mrs. B. I don't. Oh, actually, as their good partnership, where everybody has a different eye for color, so it's awesome.
Yeah.
Their stuff is really beautiful.
But theirs does work together as a complete collection. It doesn't, like, having seen their display, I never think, oh, that's one thing and that's another thing.
No,
it's
it kind of
a whole collection, and it could have been either one of them that did it. Yeah,
no, that's true. But it was just, I hadn't seen it like in person before, and obviously I knew about it from your shawl, and I was like, oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, I saw it. So that is how the yarns work. That is amazing. So what next then for you?
Well, I kind of wasn't too sure after, like, the magazine thing, because I was kind of like, oh, what do I do now? It's like that's like it's like a huge sort of dream come true, and I was like, oh, well, I guess I keep going, but it was so I had I suppose a little bit of downtime where I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna follow someone else's pattern while I try and figure out what I actually want to do. Because I spent a lot of time swatching and sketching and didn't really come up with anything that I loved. And I kind of think, I need, if I'm spending the time and energy on it, I need to really like it.
And I think it's funny because when you say that, like, I think lots of people forget that, like, designing is work as well. It's not just something that, like, some people, I imagine it just goes into their heads, but actually a lot of it is a lot of ripped out swatches.
Yeah, and that I've got a design at the minute that I was in Belfast, where I was near Belfast, and we're staying at a place beside the loch, and so every morning I could actually look out and I could see this sort of triangle section of the loch, and at different times all the waves and how they moved across it, and each day I was just like, there's something there, there's something there. But trying to figure out how to put that into yarn, or how to make that an actual pattern and get the whatever stitches you want it to be, because I knew how I wanted it to look, but knowing how you want something to look and actually being able to achieve that is something entirely different.
It is, and it takes time to do it. And do you use different yarns do you have a yarn in mind, or do you just kind of swatch with bits you have?
At that time, I had been to Edinburgh Yarn Festival beforehand.
2 bags of yarn.
Well, I had gotten this Joeli Creates. yarn, and in this beautiful blue color. It's this one here.
How cool.
So you can see, but this is an exclusive sneak peek because you've just seen half the design. But yes.
That looks like, as you hold it, it looks like it's rippling.
Yeah, and it looked like a solid or a semi-solid color, but actually when you look really closely, it's got different tones through it, and you see little bits of like darker blue or almost purple and grey. And so I just thought this is absolutely perfect.
Her yarns.
But then it's the thing of, okay, so I've got my idea, I've got my yarn, how do I make that happen? And also, if I've got one skein and I want to make a shawl, how, in my mind, I'm always thinking, how can I make it as big as possible?
Yeah.
Because it would be very easy to just come up with something really small, but you just bought a beautiful hand-dyed skein of yarn. I mean, you know, and it's, I kind of think people have spent their hard-earned money to buy something beautiful, so then you want to make the absolute most of it.
Yeah, and your skipping pebbles is like that. Like,
exactly.
When I have that, it shows, and like the single skein version, people are like, "That's one skein in crochet," and I'm like, "Yep," because you worked at it until it was right.
Yeah, because, and that was my first hand-dyed yarn purchase.
Oh.
And that was all your fault.
Oh, thanks.
Because I had seen the pictures and I knew I was coming to unravel, and I looked at it on the online pictures and I thought, I really hope I don't like that yarn in real life. That would make things so much easier. And I got there, and my plan was to walk around the whole place and be very considered. But I saw this one stone collector, and I just had to get it. But then when I was home, I was like, okay. I mean, that was the most expensive yarn I'd ever bought, because I'd never bought hand-dyed yarn, and buying it in a skein. But my goodness, it was an entirely new experience. But then I thought, okay, so like a lot of people, I've gone to a show, I've fallen in love with this yarn, I get home, what can I make with it?
Yeah.
And also, even though at times I am using hand-dyed yarn, I do try and think, could you substitute, if it's the same weight,
yeah,
could you substitute the yarn? So could you, if it's, so the Life in the Long Grass was their sock yarn,
yeah,
or I can't remember what they call it.
Fine sock.
Fine sock, that's it. But actually, I've since made that same shawl in cotton.
Yeah.
I have made it in Banshee yarns.
Oh, did you? Oh, yeah. I don't know where that is. That is very tidily put away by Bariste. I've been very good at my samples recently. I've been like, tidily put him in. It is a magnificent shawl.
But equally, you could make it with West Yorkshire Spinners or the Stylecraft sock yarn. Like the sock.
It's such a versatile, because I've seen it now in a few things. Like, obviously, I've seen it in the Giddy Aunt, their yarn.
Yes.
And it's just, and it also looks great, variegated, because it's so, the stitch definition is so, the crochet is so defined that even because I have one in, obviously, the Ullen yarn that you did for me in hot yarn, it was, and you do not lose the definition in it, that shawl.
Yeah, I really try not to come across as arrogant and obnoxious, but I haven't seen it in a colour that I don't like.
I've never seen a version of it I don't like. It's beautiful.
Every time I've seen it, even I've seen people have done it in DK weight Noro yarn, which is entirely different. But I still was like, whoa, that's really nice.
And you know what? It's like, it's okay for you to say, I did something and I'm pleased. I think sometimes it's really hard for people, like if you work alone or if you're a designer or something, it's really hard to say, oh, I did a good job. You did a good job, Sarah. It was awesome. And you can think that as well.
But see, I'm coming around to the idea that actually, if I really like something and I really liked that, then there's a good chance that other people will too.
Yeah. Plus,
you know, so
crochet has it, like, I want to say improved, but that sounds awful. Knitting has changed and crochet has changed. They've changed. And I think for the better in both crafts. Well, skills, not crafts.
Yeah.
I'm very vain about that for knitting and crochet. I'm like, it's a skill.
It is.
You need to work hard to be bad at it.
It absolutely is. I mean, you know, you take a hook or 2 pointy needles and some yarn, you know, and given some time, can create anything from a toy to a blanket to a, you know, beaded shawl or a dress.
I got to see, like, some of the wedding dresses I've seen recently in knit and crochet have been astonishing. Yeah, it is endless.
Yeah.
Speaking of dresses, what's the big design you have in your head that you haven't started? That the one thing that you would love to design, but you're not either ready or you're just not there yet, or only if you want to tell me.
Well, I'm not sure that I know. I'm not. I had this shawl that I'm working on now.
Yeah.
That was the one I really wanted to figure out.
Yeah.
And to the point that I made it, it wasn't right. I had to rip the whole thing out and start again. You know, so having it done, I'm really pleased because I really like it.
Just even that quick view there looks beautiful.
At some point, I am thinking another garment. So, you know, I haven't got any sort of concrete ideas.
Yeah.
I've got a few different ideas, you know, thinking about like what shape would I want it to be, how would I want to make it.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who hates seams, so
so it's going to have to be like a seamless.
So I'm thinking, you know, how to do seamless, but then, you know, it's things like what stitches do you use, and then also how can I do it so that it's going to fit other people and not just myself? And I'm toying with a sort of like cape idea. Mm-hmm. I've got some Mr. B's yarn actually. I went and I was playing what a friend and I call the colour game. Where you just go, oh, look at those two together. They look rather nice. Oh, but what if you bring in this dangerous game? Because you end up
liking them all.
Yes. And so this lady was just kind of putting two together, and I said, oh, do you know, that one and that one would look lovely. And I put them side by side. And then I kind of looked around and saw another one, and I thought, that looks quite nice too. And I sort of brought it in. And I was kind of looking, and then I put the three together, and then I went, oh dear.
Now you need all three.
Oh dear, because how am I actually going to leave and not take these with me?
It's hard, because I watch people make that decision a lot at shows. And you know what? It's hard, because you want people to have what they want, but obviously there's a price on certain things. And you see people kind of going, can you hold on to those for, you know, a week or a couple of weeks? And I do that all the time, because I'm like, why would I not? Or you see people kind of go, right, that's it, this is my food budget. Or not really. Nobody does that. I've never actually heard, this is my yarn budget for the day and I'm going to spend it all on these. Or they say, you know what, I can't have them right now. If you have them, when I can afford them, I'll come back to them.
Yeah, and that's
but it's hard. It's hard to watch people kind of go, oh.
I know. I mean, in terms of quite a few things, would say, you know, buy the best that you can afford, but don't put yourself in any financial difficulty. And mainly because there are so many yarns that you can find something, like I really like the West Yorkshire Spinners yarn.
Great. It's great.
Yeah.
It's superb.
Yeah, so if I'm going to make,
it's very genuine, very authentic. Yeah,
if I'm going to make something, you know, that's larger, I would use that rather than something hand dyed or, you know. So that I do think that there are options, which is then again why I'm thinking, if I'm saying to somebody, you know, oh well, you need 1 or 2 skeins to make a shawl, I want it to be as nice as possible, or at least a decent size, or so that you're getting the most out of it.
You get great value for your yarn budget then. And I hate a shawl that just goes, I need 100, you know, I need a skein and 0.5 or 0.2 of a skein. And I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah,
I want to.
Nobody sells 0.5 of a skein.
Yeah, I want 1.95 of skein if I have 2 skeins. I want 2 skeins to the point where you are playing. Not quite. Obviously, as a designer, I think you should really leave 10%. But I'm happy with 1.9 of 2 skeins.
Yeah. A lot of my patterns are kind of keep going until you run out of yarn.
I love those as well.
So, and again, especially skipping pebbles. I mean, you could, because of the way the pattern is, you can just keep going and going and going.
My dream is to own a big 4 skein version of it, like a rug.
But like, I mean, I made a 2 skein Banshee Yarns version. But equally, if I'd have thought, actually, at 1.5, it was quite a decent size. If I'd wanted to stop there, I could have.
Yeah.
You know, so it's that sort of thing. Yeah, you could if you wanted.
Yeah, and that's why I like
make it as big as you like. I mean, it's a triangle, so at some point it might, you know, if you've got it around you, the sort of center point might be on the floor, but
you want to drag it along after you. No, it's gorgeous. So let me see. I'm going to ask you some very quick questions now, just to aggravate you. Favorite yarn?
Good grief, I'm not. See, I'm the worst person to ask these questions to, because I find it very hard to have a favorite.
Pick one. Come on, you can have one.
Pick one. Well, like brand or?
By brand. Brand will do, because otherwise, if you go into brand, you could be there forever.
Yes. Okay. It would have to be Life in the Long Grass or Ullin.
Oh. It's hard to say no to, isn't it? Favorite hooks?
Tulip.
Oh, me too.
I have the Tulip Etimo set, and they're fantastic.
They're beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Favorite crochet designer?
Maybe. Oh, I love everything that Avonee designs.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fabulous. Yeah, her stuff is really nice.
I've only made one of hers, but I look at them all and just go, I want to make that and that and that.
Yeah, she does a Tunisian crochet one that
Tunisian crochet. Yes.
Out of this world.
And
yes. Favorite knitwear designer?
Ooh. That's hard. Maybe Hopi Locatelli.
Oh, okay. Yeah, her stuff is lovely. I must cast on her. Is it a Ripple shawl? No, the one she did in the Ullen. I must make a sample of that. Oh, the hardship, like. Yes.
Well,
and then,
saying that, I've not actually made any of hers. I've just looked at them and gone, oh, I like that, and I like that, and I like that. And I did actually meet her once, and she's lovely.
She strikes me as very nice.
Yeah.
Yes. It's okay. I have loads and loads of Caitlin Hunter patterns that I've never made. It's okay. We all have weaknesses. Yeah. Favorite physical yarn store?
Oh, well, I mean, my local yarn store, Pins and Needles in Devizes.
Oh, I haven't been.
You know,
When you say that word as well, is that device? I was going to, I see it on things sometimes. I don't want to tell you how I say it. Devises or something. I was going
devises. Yeah, it is my local yarn store.
Awesome.
And so I have health issues, in case anyone doesn't know, so I don't get out a lot. But, you know, if I'm wanting to look for yarn and I know who they stock, then I will go there first.
Perfect. Also, I actually haven't, I must look. Favorite, oh no, I'm joking.
Favorite online?
If you say anything else, I'd be so sad, but I don't expect you to say it. I'd be like, oh, I can't.
No, honest truth, I have kind of, shows you the sort of person I am. I have a sort of yarn, sorry, parents are home. A yarn purchasing policy that is, can I get it at my local yarn store?
Brilliant. Yeah.
If I can't, can I get it from the Loveliest Yarn Company or direct from whoever it is, you know, like Mr. B, then I can go straight to him.
Yeah.
So if I can't get it from my local yarn store, you just said the local. And then if I can't get it from the Loveliest Yarn Company, then I will look at bigger online retailers like Wool Warehouse.
Yeah, Wool Warehouse are very good. Holly and Andy are very nice. Yeah.
So it does depend on what I'm after.
Of course.
Because obviously you'll stock different things. But that's like my kind of
like
process.
If I buy King Cole Cotton Soft, I don't buy it online. I either go to my local shop, which is in town, which is United in Long Eaton, or I go into Eleanor at Nottingham. And if I'm short needles, if I can't get the needles I want, I always go into Eleanor.
Yeah.
And I do order them online. But yeah.
And sometimes it's a case of my local yarn store stocks West Yorkshire spinners, but sometimes not in the quantity that I want, because obviously they have their customer base. And so if their customers only think of sock yarn in terms of socks, they don't need to be buying in huge quantities of one colour.
No.
Whereas then, like, you know, I've come to you before and say, look, I'm making a sweater.
I need X amount of it. Yeah.
You know, so at times there's some crossover, but you know,
but I'll get emails from people and they'll be saying, do you have batch number X of yarn? I'll be like, well, no, I have the yarn, but I don't have the batch. Then I'll find someone who has the batch number for people. And no, and I'm only teasing you about asking you that. That's really naughty. I was only teasing. But yeah, I think that people should keep their local yarn stores open where possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean,
people learn to knit, like, and that's where people can go when they're stuck. And I go to mine. So
yeah, and the, you know, the people that work there or run them, it's the same for the shops in Bath.
Yeah,
that I just unfortunately never am able to get to. They know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You can have in-depth yarn conversations. If you've got a pattern and you think, well, that's not quite right, or you know, you're allergic to wool or something.
Yeah. They'll have
you have a conversation about, can I make this with something else? Or if I want to make it in this, I want to make it in this size, but I want to make it in this yarn. So how much am I going to need? You know, you've got that sort of help to back you up.
Anything that helps make more knitters and keeps knitting alive, I'm all for all those things. So I think sometimes people think online yarn stores don't want that. That's definitely, I'll buy yarn off of anyone anyway. You know me, it's not like I have a problem or anything. And then one last question, favorite yarn show you've ever been to?
Oh, Unravel.
Yay! It's a bit of I'm very biased though, like, because I kind of like them all, and I won't go back if I didn't like a show.
Yeah.
But yeah, Unravel is a super show. It's a lovely show.
Yeah, it's the first one I went to. It's so far the only one I've been to more than once.
Yeah.
So, and of course, it's where I got to meet you in the real life.
You.
Yes,
and got me that lovely sample. Was it last year?
I got to scare your lovely Simon.
Ah, the lovely Simon.
So I walked up to him and saying, "Simon, hi!" He looked at me and I was like,
"You know who you are, though." I said, "Oh, I'm talking to Sarah today." He's like, "Oh, Sarah McFall," and I was like, "Oh, you even know her surname?" I was like, "Wow, okay." No, you definitely know who you are. So anything else you want to tell us, and then I will give you back your day because you probably have 1,000 things to be doing.
I was planning on having a nap.
That is very important. I am all in favor of a nap.
Yes. I really think that the whole point of crochet and knitting is that you enjoy it.
Yes.
So, you know, if somebody tries to say to you things like, "Oh, you shouldn't hold your hook that way," or "You shouldn't hold your yarn in that hand," or don't listen. It's fine. If you can make it work,
yeah,
then what does it matter?
Yes.
You know, if you can get the tension, you know, then really there's no problem.
I know there's lots of scolders out there at the moment.
Yeah, I met somebody and they said, "Oh, well, I went to see someone. She said that I was holding it wrong and that my tension would be awful." And it was just like, I was like, "How do you hold it? I'm curious now." And I was like, that's a perfectly reasonable way to hold the hook and yarn. You go ahead, love. Like, you carry on. Usually she'll bring out, she brought out something she'd made and it's like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with how you're doing.
I know. Some people say that to me at shows. They're like, "Oh, I couldn't do that." And I'm like, did you make what you're wearing? They're like, "Oh, just this." And you're like, yeah, that magic that you're wearing.
Yeah, it's with knitting and crochet, it's if you can get comfortable holding the hook, holding the needles, holding the yarn, then that's half the battle.
Oh, that's such
that and being able
advice.
to
awesome
follow patterns and all of that stuff. But that can come.
Yes. Fabulous. Thank you so much for your time. And I will probably I'm hoping I will see you shortly anyway. And that's it. And I'll share this with everybody. Is part of the blog, and we will talk and catch up later. So I'm going to stop recording now. So thank you so much, Sarah, for your time. And I will
thank you. Bye.
So I hope you really like that. I had so much fun talking to Sarah, and it was really good for me too, because sometimes you forget things that you know. So that's it for this episode. I'm just going to show you very quickly my lovely sweater. This is my love notes in Banshee Yarns, Silky Singles Rua and Mohair Lace in Fortune. So it's the Tin Can Knits Love Notes sweater, which I think loads of people are making, and it's so gorgeous, and it's cropped, so it's perfect for dresses. So I'll be back next week then with some I'm going to do some more interviews, but there'll be kind of maybe one a month or not, every now and again. So if you fancy coming on and saying hello, I do them via Zoom or in person, depending on where you're located. So if you'd like to join me on the show, I would love to have you. Or tune in and see other people talking. Next week, we're back to some sharing knitting. Hopefully, all going well. The new sock colours for Banshee Yarns, which I'm hoping to have ready for the next few shows that we're doing. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining in. I really hope you enjoyed the interview. You can subscribe. And also make sure you check out the show notes for details of all of Sarah's patterns and everything that we mentioned in the chat that we had. Thank you so much for joining. See you next time.